So I wanted to do an audio recording about what can happen to a deceased spirit after somebody is a murder victim. And first, before I explain it from a spiritual perspective, I should explain why this is very important to me, because I had a friend of mine who, Sarah, her name's Sarah, and a friend of mine who was murdered. It's actually kind of a weird situation because in high school we had two classes together. So Sarah and I, in high school, we were pretty good friends for about a year because we had two classes together, and that's how I met her. We had gym class together, and then we also had math class together, and so this was 2005, so in math class, I was in 11th grade, and Sarah was in 10th grade, and she came over to my house plenty of times, and we were really good friends in high school for that 1 year, and then, first of all, I'm a year older than she is, and it was in high school and everything, so we were, too young to have, like, a regular job at the time, and we had our home phones, so we didn't have cell phones or, anything, and this was before MySpace and Facebook and everything came out, so, and to add to the problem, I'm a year older than her, so when I graduated and everything and moved out of state, we didn't really have a plan to keep track of each other and everything, so we just kind of like lost touch. I ended up in 2012. I ended up looking up her name, and I kept researching it, and it was really weird that I couldn't even find anything on her. And I ended up finding out that in 20, so it would have been 2010, that my high school friend Sarah had moved out of state, and so she moved to the Midwest and everything, and she moved to Colorado, and then basically I ended up learning in 2011 she had been murdered by an ex-boyfriend of hers. So I just kind of want to explain from my personal experience. I do have a high school girlfriend of mine that was murdered, so this topic on a personal level is, very important to me. And then, of course, if you subscribe to my channel and you get the gist, and you see basically, look at my content, you know that I'm a very spiritual person and everything. So I don't want to specifically identify with a religion, and I don't really know, I haven't really done a whole lot of, research on ghosts or anything. I don't really have, I'm open. They could exist, they could not exist. I know for a fact that when a person, passes on, they always stick really close with their loved ones. Like, my dad is absolutely by my side 100% of the time. Morning, noon, and night when I'm asleep, he's got his eye on me 24 hours a day. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to sort of address a topic, and offhand, I would agree. I did say, I would say this is true, because some people can, anything spiritually or religiously, you can say something. If you bring up a fact, there are people that are going to argue, that it doesn't, exist. I have friends that are atheists and everything, and, they would deny that any of this exists at all. But I just kind of wanted to go into a topic. So kind of like what I just said about a minute ago, there are spirits that are in heaven and everything like that, and that is, they're surrounded, in our daily lives and friends and loved ones, and so this is a little bit different than the topic of my, that I am addressing right now, which is an earthbound spirit. So that means, and I'm not necessarily, I'm just I personally haven't really looked into it much, so I'm just kind of addressing the topic, and I just want to get your opinions. I don't know whether it exists or not. I don't know my personal opinions, yes or no or whatever. And so there is the topic of an earthbound spirit, and that's when somebody, it's different than like a deceased spirit that, they died peacefully and they want to stay with their friends and loved ones, but this is one where this spirit or this ghost, so I guess you would commonly, the common term is ghost, and this ghost will remain, here because they had it's different than being around deceased friends and loved ones, is where the ghost will stay on earth and will not, sometimes they don't even recognize that they're dead, and they will not enter into heaven or go through an afterlife or the gates of heaven and meet the angels or anything like that. So basically, an earthbound spirit can happen when the person, like, it's just absolutely all out of nowhere, and the person doesn't even realize maybe that they're dead. It could happen in like a sudden, accident, like they're walking around the corner and some drunk driver comes around 100 miles an hour and they just get squished like that. That could be an accident. I'm just saying, earthbound spirit. It's actually kind of funny because now that I'm doing this video, I remember that Sarah and I were talking about earthbound spirits, and she was telling me like a little bit. And it could be if the person's second option is if the person, died really young, let's say they were only 35 or whatever, and they just didn't feel that they had enough time to really fulfill, what they were supposed to do, then that would be a ghost or an earthbound spirit that they just absolutely couldn't go into heaven. And then sometimes they say that people who commit suicide, they say that could be an earthbound spirit because they say that, you never got to complete what you were supposed to do. And then murder victims, especially, we're assuming that the person is, younger. With both murder and suicide, we assume that the person is pretty young, and that they didn't, live old and die peacefully and commit, what they were on here on Earth to accomplish. So, there are, different things. I just wanted to address the thing in this video is that murder victims, sometimes if you believe in earthbound spirits or ghosts, sometimes the earthbound spirit or the ghost will linger around, and either they don't realize whether they were dead, or they will just sort of linger around because, their life was taken from them and they can't bear to leave their friends and family. They don't want to leave Earth. Especially somebody that died very young, they might not have gotten, think about murders, that it's forcing somebody's life is being taken from them. So this person may feel that their life was taken from them way too long and they didn't get to accomplish everything with their friends and family that they came here on Earth to do. So if somebody is, they say that, and I'm not saying like every single one and everybody in this category, obviously, but I'm just saying, if you murder somebody or somebody's a murder victim, they're saying that sometimes some of those murder victims can be ghosts or an earthbound spirit because if somebody's life is taken from them way too young, then the person doesn't want to let go of Earth, and sometimes they just don't want to accept the fact that something so violent happened, and they just can't let go. So both from a personal perspective, because I had a girlfriend of mine murdered in college, and then also from a spiritual perspective. I think this is the first time in all my videos that I have been addressing death. I just wanted to talk about murder, and I just kind of wanted to sort of go into the topic in this video about murder and earthbound spirits, and the more common label on these spirits is say in earth is ghosts. So I don't really know if I have personal opinion about whether they exist or not. I just kind of wanted to make the topic more familiar to you.